Thanks for coming back and joining me for more Emmy coverage. If you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button so you can keep getting these cool ass videos from me. I have to start off at the top before getting into the Emmy prediction just because I don't really have like a daily post. And I do want to say rest in peace to Treat Williams, who died in a motorcycle accident. Everwood is one of my favorite shows. So to me, that was Dr. Andy Brown that died in a motorcycle accident, which just puts it on like a completely like extra level. And the fact that I'm currently doing an Everwood rewatch, and during the run of that rewatch, I've lost both Treat Williams and John Beasley. It's kind of weird. I feel like I should stop watching before I lose another Everwood cast member. um, so yes, rest in peace, Treats. Thank you for being one of my favorite shows of all time. Supporting actor in a comedy. Now let's lighten things up. This category is batshit crazy, and anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Shout out to the guys over at Oscar Buzz who think that they got this figured out. There are a lot of performances that deserve to be talked about in this category. Before I'm even going to tell you who I picked, let's run them down, because this is the first category where I actually feel like, oh my god. There are a lot of possibilities. There really even are dark horses in this thing of people that deserve, that I'm sure getting votes. Not just to mention my like wish dictions. Like, I'd love for somebody to recognize what Danny Pudi does on Mythic Quest. You know, I feel like what he does on that show is great. And nobody watches Mythic Quest apparently, even though it's in its like 4th season. And yeah, so, but real contenders. Obviously, we got the Ted Lasso boys. The question is, how many of them do we get? The safe bet is to go with Brett Goldstein and Nick Mohammed, who have been nominated previously for the first and second seasons. They're the only 2 actors who have been nominated both times. Brett Goldstein previously winning this category. So I think, especially given the fact that both of their characters have gone on such a journey and such a ride, Roy Kent is not where he ended. It's not the same place where he started as where he ended. He's a very different person, and that's due to the performance that Brett Goldstein has brought to that role. And also Nick Mohammed has taken Nathan in a very different role. I would not have originally nominated. I thought he got nominated a little early to play Nathan. But this past season, I think they really did everything that they needed to do for Nathan. I also really enjoy Phil Dunstar as Jamie Tart. And he's also previously been nominated. I don't think he'll get it this time. I think the category is too tight to get 3 nominees from any show. I think 2 nominees is a flex. So if you can get 2 nominees in from your show, you're flexing. This is a bitch of a category. So another show that might have 2 nominees is Barry. Henry Winkler is doing some fantastic work in his final season on Barry. But also, I do have to give props to Anthony Carrigan. This is a character that I haven't liked, and an actor whose nominations previously I've never understood. Finally, also getting the kind of work, the kind of scene work in the final season that really made his character sort of come together. And I think it's actually really is time to make sure Anthony Carrigan is on the list. Of course, there are other supporting actors in Barry who, could be nominated. I love Stephen Root. Love Stephen Root as an actor. However, he does feel like the third choice. And once again, I feel like getting 3 actors in is a lot. So you're already flexing if you can get 2. And I just don't know that he can get in this season. Sorry. And maybe if we stopped putting limits on how many people can be excellent in a year and started just making like a minimum threshold in votes, like, and then it did however many people is what it is. You can even shortlist it, you know, like all these 15 people qualified, and let's bring it down again from there. So that way we have a short list to work with, and we know who at least came close to a nomination. Because I feel like Stephen Root would definitely be in that category of getting some love, but just not enough love. Not enough love. There are some other shows too that have possibilities of multiple nominations. Just less so. I would say What We Do in the Shadows does have both Mark Probst, who plays Colin Robinson, and I already forgot his name, the guy who plays Guillermo, both read in supporting actor. So I couldn't remember everybody's name for this video. I'm sorry. And they're both great in their roles. But What We Do in the Shadows is the kind of show that has had a little bit of a hard time getting their actors nominated, even though it's gotten some series love in the past. I don't know that they're going to be able to surprise this year. This doesn't feel like a year where they slide in. This feels like a year where they get even pushed out even more. Some other shows to consider, The Bear. I know that The Obnoxious Cousin, please don't nominate him. It's not a role that deserves to be nominated in its first season. I feel like it's a one-note role, and it feels like the kind of thing that, sure, because he has the screen time where you're like, oh, well, and he's obnoxious, so he's kind of funny sometimes. He just kind of, every time he's in a scene, for me, he always pulls me out of the show. Like, I'm much more here for Jeremy Allen White's character than I am for his character. I just think his character has no idea what he's doing. And I don't know him well enough as an actor to know that he has range. So it's sort of like, imagine the first time you saw Pauly Shore do something. If it had been in something that was critically acclaimed, and he started getting awards love, and then, so he got more work, and you were like, oh, that's all he does. He only does that one thing. He has no range. We don't know. I don't know him well enough to know whether or not this character has any range, and they didn't write his character with enough depth. They kind of left him to be this obnoxious character. Another character that sort of feels like the same way would be Kevin Dillon's character from Entourage. Would be another solid comparison. And I don't think Kevin Dillon got nominated season 1 of Entourage. I think it took a minute for him to get recognition for that. So, and Kevin Dillon had worked before we knew who Kevin Dillon was. So there's that. There's Shrinking, which a lot of people are talking about. And think might get in this race. I've left it out mostly because I don't know who's watching Shrinking. However, that being said, even with that, I think Harrison Ford is going to get in. When I go through my final 8, you'll see him on there. And it's because I think people will vote for him, even though maybe they didn't watch Shrinking, or they didn't watch all of it, or maybe they didn't even like it. Because he's Harrison Ford. He's never been nominated for an Emmy. This is the first, well, this in 1923, for some reason this year, he just decided, I'm going to do TV before I die. And he did 2 shows at the same time. So I think this show, which gives him the chance to be funny and dramatic at the same time as he battles Parkinson's, is on the show, is going to be the show that gets him that nomination. Some people think he might win. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think you're overestimating the amount of people who watch Shrinking, especially compared to some of the shows that we know are critical darlings. If he wins, that's one hell of an achievement. But also, my problem is that I don't think he's the only actor on the show that deserves a nomination. I think Luke Tenney deserves a nomination for Sean. I think what he does on that, if this was not Harrison Ford, and this was just some lesser known regular ass TV actor in that role, it wasn't some major name, I think we would be talking about Luke Tenney. I don't think we would be talking about the other character as much. If it was even Playing Ground, like if this show was Jason Segel was the name actor bringing everybody in, and they didn't bother to cast anybody else who was like a next level A-lister, we would be talking about Luke Tenney. And not enough people are. He's not going to get the nomination. He deserves the nomination. His work as Sean is kind of the point of the series, is to actually work with somebody and fix somebody and help them. So, there are, obviously there's some other new shows to talk about. It's the same factor with Harrison Ford is the same thing I'm going to say about Joe Pesci for Bupkis. Seeing his name on a ballot could get him the nomination. Bupkis could get Bupkis in terms of nominations, but Joe Pesci could get a nomination. I think he's being underestimated. I think it's the kind of thing where it's like, would I be surprised if he was in the top 8? No. Would I be surprised if he was the show's only nomination? No, I would not. Because he's fucking Joe Pesci, and he's never done TV before. So this is his TV series. This is the first time he's been a series regular on a TV show. So I just don't think that. I don't think that's being counted as much for people who are all like, yeah, Harrison Ford. Well, for all the same reasons, Joe Pesci, who's dying of cancer in this show, by the way. So you've got one person who's battling Parkinson's and another person who's battling cancer. So they've both been given an affliction to battle with in their shows. One of them is on Apple, which has gotten nominations before. The other one's on Peacock, which is... This is... We need to see whether or not Peacock can get any nominations. If they don't get nominations this year, it's going to be a little bit obvious, because they finally have a couple shows worth nominating. Yeah. What else is there? There's The Marvelous Miss Maisel, which always Tony Shalhoub has been he's been in here every single time. And Maisel in season 5 does feel a little bit long in the tooth. And I don't know that he is what you walk away from season 5 feeling like the central focus. I also think that there's an argument to be made that even though Tony Shalhoub, he's won this category, and he does he is the sun that we orbit around sometimes. It is kind of weird that we don't nominate Joel, the actor who plays Joel in the show, because he's actually had a lot of career growth, and just the stuff that he went through this season, coming out of last season into this season, I think his character has gotten so much stronger. Kevin Pollak has always been great on this show, and he's a well-recognized actor. I don't know why he doesn't get attention. And also this year, the actor who plays Gordon on the show, I don't know why. That's a role that really stood out to me as being something worth your 5 seconds of time. So there's like 4 performances in Maisel that I think all should be nominated. But again, this is a bitch of a category this year. There are some sort of like fringe nominees, I guess you could say. Technically, James Marsden is up for 2 different shows. He's up for both Jury Duty, and he's up for Dead to Me, the final season of Dead to Me. I think actually he's more likely to get nominated for Jury Duty based on the buzz for that show. However, Freefy has never been nominated for anything. So even though some people are also, I've seen Sprung out there, I'm just like, no, Sprung not gonna get, no, stop, go away. I think shows we should be looking at, we have massive supporting casts of Schmigadoon and Ghosts, who are terrific, but like, who do you nominate? Who do you pick? For me personally, if I could pick one and give just an award, I would probably Titus Burgess from Schmigadoon and whoever plays Thor on Ghosts. I think are probably 2 people we should start focusing on if we're ever going to give anybody from any of these shows nominations. And Atlanta, it's the final season of Atlanta, and Brian Tyree Henry is hot right now. He's coming off of an Oscar nomination. And he also had one fantastic episode. The farmer episode was great. I mean, his work this season has been great. And I think there's actually 2 eligible seasons. I swear we put the last 2 seasons back to back in a way that they can actually both be eligible. So I think his body of work is strong. The other one is Lakeith Stanfield, who is also an Oscar nominee and should not be counted out. He also had an episode that was centric to his character, and it was a pretty cool episode where he was kind of tripping balls or didn't know whether or not he was tripping balls. So there's that too. So lots of possibilities, which leads me to my final 2 things to talk about. Which one is Abbott Elementary, which I know people are starting to talk more and more. We've got obviously Tyler James Williams is a lock. I wish he wasn't. This is the kind of character that doesn't get locks. This is the kind of character we don't usually fawn over. We usually fawn over the characters with the quirks, with the personality quirks. His type of character doesn't get the kind of Emmy love. He's the John Krasinski and the Rashida Jones, if that makes any sense. He's the John Krasinski from The Office slash Pam, like Jim and Pam from The Office, or Rashida Jones from Parks and Rec. The character that sort of is looking in on the insanity. Those characters traditionally don't get nominations. I don't understand how not only is he considered a lock every season, but he's literally the front runner to win. There is no amount of explaining this to me that will ever make sense, because I watch too much television for Tyler James Williams' performance in Abbott Elementary to be the funniest thing that I've seen all year. There's no way. Yes, there's something to be said for the fact that straight men just typically do not get the kind of love that the other characters get. And it's so unfair and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. But, there's a reason for that. Steve Carell made The Office for you. I know Jim and Pam had their own thing going on, but why did you watch Steve Carell? Rainn Wilson, Parks and Rec. Yes, Rashida Jones. She did a lovely job. But why were you watching? You were watching for Amy Poehler. You were watching for Nick Offerman. You were watching for characters like that. Even Rob Lowe when he joined the show. Characters that were just very sort of off the wall and different. Were the ones that were funny. They're the ones that are quotable. They're the ones that do all that stuff. The straight characters, they get their laughs and they get their time in the sun, and they get to go on and do bigger and better things. They don't get the nominations, which leads me to, is it time for another Abbott? Is it time for Chris Profetti to get nominated? The thing is, I don't think Tyler James Williams is not going to get nominated. I think too many people are talking about him. I would love for him to not get nominated. I hate rooting against somebody, but there are too many people in this category who I think actually deserve nominations. And Chris Profetti is one of those characters who is goofy, who is part of the humor of the show. But for me, personally, even saying that, I would say that I think the women of Abbott Elementary are the reason why people watch the show. I don't think it's the men. I think if this show lost its females, if all the females walked and you were left with Tyler James Williams and Chris Profetti, no one would be watching the show. So that's that. And I think the janitor who just got up to series regular for the second season, again, 3 is a no-go this year. There's no way three no one gets 3 nominations. 2 is flexing. There's too many nominees, too many potentials from shows that I think are critically acclaimed and have the attention. And then there's also Saturday Night Live, the SNL effect. And I talked about it yesterday with supporting actress when I kind of said I don't think there's anybody here who deserves it. I was right about that. However, with supporting actor, I would say if we're going to do any Saturday Night Live nomination, it's going to be Bowen Yang. It feels like Bowen Yang is the moment. This is, he's the one now who has taken over He's even a little bit more popular than Keenan right now. Although I could see Keenan getting a nomination, I think Keenan's definitely the second choice. Um, I don't think Saturday Night Live gets a nomination without Bowen Yang. So I think he is the one person who finds a way to make the sketch funny, even if the sketch isn't funny, or make himself funny in the sketch. So he has a very unique perspective that seems to be working right now in the show. If I had to pick sort of like a third person out of nowhere, I think James Austin Johnson is starting to get noticed on the show. There's always a chance that Colin Jost or Michael Che, but like, which one do you pick? You know, like, they're doing the same thing. Pick them both. Like, they should be co-nominated. Because they don't do sketches. So why would you nominate one of them and not the other? Doesn't make any sense. So those are kind of, that's with everything being said. So I've gone through just about damn near everything. And what I'm currently working off of is, I think Tyler James Williams is in. So that's number 1. I think Brett Goldstein is in. That's my number 2. I think Nick Muhammad is in. That's my number 3. I think Henry Winkler is in. That's my number 4. I think Anthony Carrigan is in. That's my number 5. I think Brian Tyree Henry is in. That's my number 6. I think Harrison Ford is in. That's my number 7. And I think Bowen Yang is in. And that's my number 8. Doesn't necessarily make me the happiest person alive, but I'm trying to figure out how to spread out all of this love between all of these shows and all these performances that deserve to be nominated and warrant attention. There isn't even, on Gold Derby, they don't even track Not Dead Yet, which was kind of sad for me because I think both Lauren Ash, the supporting actress, and the actor who plays Gina Rodriguez's roommate in the show, both do exceptional work in that show, which did manage a second season. But I guess we just assume now that nobody's watching network television, so when something comes along like that, we're like, nah, I don't know. The kid who plays, not the kid who plays, I should just say Rob Lowe's son, I want to say Josh Lowe, on Unstable. He does a really good job. I would love to be talking about Reboot. I'm so pissed at Hulu. I am so pissed at Hulu for canceling Reboot. I loved Reboot so much. And I would love to be talking about Paul Reiser for Reboot. I can't because there's no way in hell the Academy nominates the Emmy voting body nominates a show that debuted in September and was canceled. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. So unfortunately, Paul Reiser is out of the running for that. It's interesting that when people talk about Somebody Somewhere, they only talk about one person. It's not even talked about really for show. It's just like, can we get this actress in? That's it. So there are no supporting performances apparently in that show. Yes, there are a bunch of nominees in these supporting categories that deserve more love and more attention. Unfortunately, we can only nominate 8. And it's the same problem with every award body. There are too many people giving great performances to try to choose it. And then it gets so frustrating when people latch on to something and you're like, why? And maybe I'm out there on a limb by myself on the Tyler James Williams train. But oh my God, like, there are just funnier performances. I had to leave off everybody from Maisel. I was like, which show gets dumped? And I was like, Maisel's in its 5th season, Barry's in its 4th. I think maybe Maisel, maybe Shaloub, who's already won. Maybe he's the one that gets dumped. It's a lot. Anyway, let me know who you think, because I'm all over the place on this. I don't even know if this is my final 8. This is my 8 for right now, because this category is a beast. and is kicking my ass. So everything else up until this point was easy. It was just, oh yep, this is falling in. And maybe there's like one or two people outside the category. When I got to supporting actor, I was like, I don't want to do this. Don't make me do this. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks to Hollywood for making so many excellent TV shows that when I got to this point, I was like, what in the world is happening in this category? And I will be back tomorrow with limited series. We're going to jump into limited series. I have no idea. I haven't even looked. So, all right. Until then, I will see you guys on the other side.